All right, looks like we're live. Let's make sure this is going out okay. Don't have my sidekick with me tonight. He's out doing a line of coke off a hooker's back. No, of course he isn't. Luke's a good boy. He didn't do nothing. Let's see. Couple of things I want to talk about tonight. I'm not sure if we even got anybody listening. Only 2 viewers, but I don't expect live stuff to go that much. Pardon me, I didn't make myself a drink here before stream. A little Captain and Dr. Pepper here. Let's see. What else? What the hell did I want to talk about? Derp. The Charles Manson thing. Charles Manson dead. Now, I kind of looked into Charles Manson a few years ago, like more than normal. And it's weird. Like, growing up in the 80s and 90s, Charles Manson was like synonymous with just cartoon supervillain evil. He was essentially made out to be this like real life Joker, this you know jaw droppingly shocking serial killer and whatnot. And then and this was my experience at least. I guess I can't speak for anybody else, but when you actually then look into what the hell Charles Manson actually did, it's almost, I hate to use the term letdown, but I suppose underwhelming is a bit more of appropriate term. Charles Manson killed 6 people. Didn't even do it himself. He just talked a bunch of impressionable dipshit teenagers into doing it. That's it. That's it. Now, mind you, I'm not defending him. As somebody in the chat's like, don't start with the Charles Manson's good boy didn't do nothing bullshit. I don't know who's saying that, but that's not what I'm saying. You'll see what I'm saying about him in a second here. What strikes me the most about Charles Manson is that he's pathetic. He's not even this impressive supervillain he's made out to be. He's not even that. Everyone acts like he's this insane genius. Again, everyone makes him out to be essentially the Joker. That he's just the real life Joker. No, like the only reason he became this synonymous, aside, he targeted Hollywood types, I imagine. So obviously that's gonna upset the people with the loudest voices, as it were. But he loved to troll the media and just fuck with them. But he was just pathetic. Even the like 6 people, 6 fucking people. He didn't even do it himself. That's not even impressive as far as serial killers go. I'm pretty sure Bundy got more than that. And hell, your average liberal dipshit who gets a hold of an automatic weapon is all hopped up on fucking antidepressants, beats his score with regularity. Your average fucking Muslim, in a truck of peace or something out in Europe, beats that score with regularity. I'm just kind of taken aback when I look at him at how underwhelming the guy is. He's made out to be this larger than life thing, and he's just not. Somebody says Cantwell thinks Manson is great. I didn't know that about Cantwell. I haven't listened to a single one of his shows since he's been in jail. That's a shame. We'll get to that here in a second, because I do have some thoughts on Cantwell. But yeah, Manson was just kind of, again, I don't know what's another word for it, pathetic. You know, there's this one clip where a reporter says, like, nobody understands you, and tell us in a sentence who you are. And he goes through a bunch of ridiculous facial expressions. It's like he's, I mean, this was probably in the 90s, but it's like he's trying to go through every fucking emoji all of a sudden, right? And then he just goes, nobody. And, everybody acts like, oh, it's just so profound. What's going on in his head? Nothing's going on in his fucking head. All right. It's the absolute banality of evil with this guy. He was very good at spouting off a bunch of bullshit that sounds kind of um, deep until you think about it for 10 minutes. The kind of thing like a fucking 14-year-old who's just starting to learn about philosophy might think is really deep. It's the same sort of bullshit you hear from like your average fucking, I don't know, whatever the authors, the fedoras like these days. You know, back in my day it was like Bertrand Russell, which is even, that's well before my time, but he was extremely popular in atheist circles when I sort of dabbled in that when I was a God-hating agnostic, as it were. Um, Maybe he still is. I don't know. I kind of think that community's gotten even more shallow. So Russell might be a bit above their reading level at this point. But like Dawkins, shit like that, that kind of stupid shit. Where it sounds really, really super, super deep until you think about it for 3 fucking minutes. Um, yeah, so that's the thing with Manson. Like I said, I don't have a tremendous amount to say about him other than when you actually take a moment to look at him, he doesn't live up to the hype. Um, he really, really doesn't. I think a combination of the fact that he's good at trolling reporters who interview him, um, giving them just the right amount of camera, you know, camera ready nonsense, and he attacked Hollywood types. So you know, he went after some elites, as it were. So, but like I said, your average dipshit liberal hopped up on antidepressants beats that score with regularity. Somebody in the chat says he understood how to manipulate some stoned out flower children. Anyone who's not a wimp could do the same thing. Too bad Polanski wasn't home. Yeah, it's the other thing. They make him out to be some genius manipulator and all that. Like, again, this super villain level shit. Anybody could do what Manson did. Anybody could do it. If you have even slightly above average key levels, you're at all decent with reading people, you're at all have, your IQ is more in room temperature, you could fucking do what Manson did. Okay. There's nothing, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing impressive about it. You can look at an evil act and recognize it an evil act and still be impressed with the magnitude of it or what it must have taken to accomplish it, that sort of thing. You know, um, I'm not impressed with anything about Manson. I don't find any of it impressive. As for Cantwell, as I said, I have not listened to Cantwell since he's gone to prison. Anyone who's listened to the show regularly knows um, I was a big fan of Cantwell, and I still like the guy. I still wish him well, to be honest. I just, I think I don't know how to say this without it sounding like, you know, He's my 12-year-old nephew I'm worried about or some shit, but he's fallen in with a bad crowd. And it's, he was going through a rough patch where it looked like he was actually trying to have some sort of spiritual awakening. And rather than turn to God, he's completely embraced the racial politics. And as I've said before, I'm my views on race are hardly politically correct. I I'm very sympathetic to the goals and the concerns of white nationalism, even if I don't consider myself a white nationalist. I if I'm on message boards or threads with your typical conservatives, I usually sound pretty white nationalist because I'm kind of just defending them on principle. Um, because there's nothing inherently wrong with um, with just wanting a homeland for your people, wanting to preserve your race, that kind of thing. That said, though, the types of people that Cantwell's fallen in with, I mean, look, Cantwell has gotten himself in trouble in the past, and yet suddenly he throws his lot in with Richard Spencer, and he gets himself in perhaps the worst trouble he's gotten in in ages. I know he went to prison years before, but you know, and again, you know, somehow Spencer's not in any trouble. Hell, Spencer's not being even being thrown off Twitter, as far as I know, and everyone to the right of Karl Marx seems to be thrown off Twitter. It's very interesting indeed. Um, let's take a moment and go ahead and do some sponsors while I'm thinking of that. Um, if you enjoy the show, you'll notice that down below there is count them, two ways you can send me shekels. You could just send me a one-time donation via PayPal. That's greatly appreciated. Or you can decide to support my Patreon, which is also greatly appreciated. Regular donation of $1, $2, $3, 5, 7, 10. Doesn't have to be much, but it all adds up, and it helps me keep doing what I'm doing. So that's all greatly appreciated. Also down below, you'll see our sponsors. The one sponsor we have is irreverentapparel.com. Go ahead and read some ad copy here. Christmas is fast approaching, so you know what that means. Catholics will be out in full force peddling their ideology. I'm sorry, their idolatry. I'm butchering this ad. Let me start again. Christmas is fast approaching, so you know what that means. Catholics will be out in full force peddling their idolatry. Show the world you refuse to tolerate their shenanigans with a custom t-shirt or hoodie. Our fine products are dank and currently on sale for Black Friday at irreverentapparel.com. That's irreverent-apparel.com. With the promo code the Bechtloff, all one word, shipping will be free also. Be sure to check back regularly as new designs will be added continuously. But wait, there's more. Do you have an idea for a great graphic tees but don't have the time to start a business on the side? Send your designs to admin at irreverentapparel.com, irreverent-apparel.com, I should say. Sorry, my computer wanted to update on me there. Okay, at irreverent-apparel.com. We will handle the printing, shipping, and customer relations for you. You can sit back and collect a fat check from your intellectual property. All profits are split 50-50. So I don't have Luke with me, but he's got a couple of designs. The one design on there that I thought was really cool is a picture of the Martin Luther nailing the 95 Thesis, and he's got kind of the meme Feels face with a big smirk, and then there's a Pope off to the side with the meme kind of tears Feels face. So yeah, some funny stuff, and man, my sponsors got no chill, I gotta tell you. All right, so second sponsor for the show. Let's bring up some ad copy here. Bear with me here, folks. My computer wanted to try and restart on me. Come on. I really should have printed all this shit out, but I just don't have a printer right now. cannot get the fucking printer synced up to this laptop. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Ever since I went to the laptop with the Wi-Fi, where you can't plug anything in. All right. Okay, so the other sponsor we got is Aaron Clary. Christmas is not just around the corner, but it might as well be, because you're all going to procrastinate until the 11th hour and make mad dashes to Walmart, hoping it's open late Christmas Eve. Worse, some of you will follow the sheep and actually do your shopping the day after Thanksgiving because you hate yourself and want to be a target for terrorists. But if you're smart and want to make your Christmas shopping easy, do it now and buy one of Aaron Clary's books. Clary's books are the gift that nobody wants, but everybody needs. Be it Bachelor Pad Economics, Worthless, Reconnaissance Man, Curse at a High IQ, Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty, or Poor Richard's Retirement, Clary's books make great gifts for all the men of your life. All men and even women need to know the knowledge, wisdom, and advice in these books. And the younger you know, the better. So give the gift that saves lives, Aaron Clary's books. They're available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook formats, all conveniently located on Amazon.com. And while you're at it, why not consider hiring Cappy for a private consultation and make sure you're not fucking up? Visit him at assholeconsulting.com. All right, so ad break out of the way there. Oh, Luke's home. I'll send Luke a invite into the old live stream there. All right. So yeah, Irreverent Apparel and the one shirt, the shirt with the Martin Luther and the Pope on there, that's very cool. I'm a bit too short this week, these past few weeks, to really justify buying a T-shirt. Any kind of spare money I got is going towards Christmas shopping, but I'd get that for myself. I probably will at some point. Little Dr. Pepper and Captain Morgan there. Gotta love Captain Morgan. Just goes well with anything. Soda, fruit juice, just good on its own. I love rum. Not a huge drinker, but rum's quite nice. All right, so let's see, go into the chat here. Is Spencer controlled op? I don't. If he is, he doesn't know he is. No, I think they just like putting him out there because he's easy to deal with. Somebody says millennial woes, same problem as Cantwell, won't accept Christ, obsessed on race, won't break the ties to Spencer. Spencer's poison. Look, I've said this numerous times on here. I'll say it again. I don't know whether Spencer is controlled op. I kind of doubt that, but it's possible. I don't know whether he's just insanely incompetent. I don't know whether he's just cursed like a monkey's paw. But everything that guy touches turns to shit. And every time things go south, everybody around him pays, and he doesn't.
The effect is the same.
Yeah, exactly. The effect is the same. We can sit here and argue over the cause, but, you know, this isn't all this race realism stuff, isn't all this, you know, racially charged stuff. All I kept hearing from race realists early on, as this idea was really gaining steam past couple of years, was, you know, it's about pattern recognition. Well, apply some of that pattern recognition to Spencer and tell me what you see.
But I think the appeal of him is just that, well, I don't know, maybe he's just charismatic or he's just one of the first voices. But I really, honestly, we anyone on the right or the quote alt right has to like to dump him. They have to get rid of him.
I guess he's charismatic. I think he's
kind of charismatic as far as internet octets are concerned, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I was always made uneasy by that guy, and I kind of kept quiet about it.
And I speak as an internet autist.
I kind of kept quiet, but like, yeah, no. Let's see. Somebody says, "What do you think about Arab Christians?" I don't know. I can't say I think a great deal about Arab Christians. It doesn't really come up to me, but I guess good for them then.
Godspeed to them.
Yeah, just, that's nice. I can't say I have a great deal of thought put towards them. I suppose it's a step up from Arab non-Christians.
And of course, since they're Arab Christians, they could be within close proximity of Arab Muslims.
Yeah. And it sounds so heartless, but every time I hear about like the church in this or that Durka country is getting persecuted, I always think like I would just leave. And I get that a lot of people are dirt poor and they can't and all, but like if at all possible, I'd be like, I'm gonna leave. But I guess that's just the American in me. We're settlers, we're pioneers, we're new frontier guys. We're the kind of guys who say, well, this place kind of sucks now. Let's go somewhere else.
And never in that parasite, well, we sucked all the resources here, let's go somewhere else kind of way. We're like, okay, the resources kind of suck here, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not it's not the big plague of locusts where we wreck an area. No, it's just more like, hey, look, there's the horizon. I wonder what's over it. Let's see. Spencer will be the new Vanilla Ice.
Well, that's not fair. Vanilla Ice isn't evil.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't think Vanilla Ice has had more dicks in him than a urinal.
And as far as I know, he hasn't has got one song stuck in my head from my childhood.
Ice Ice Baby is the last stand of implicit white identity. So there's a comic book coming out tomorrow. I guess later today, technically. This is technically Wednesday here on the East Coast. That I'm actually excited about. I am actually excited about it. I can't remember the last time I've been excited about a new comic book coming out. Yeah, there's ones I read and all, but ones where I'm like, oh boy, I can't fucking wait till Wednesday. And that's the original title was Superman Doomsday Clock, but it's apparently been just shortened to Doomsday Clock. But the premise is basically, if you've been following DC, when they started the Rebirth, where they were kind of pulling back on a lot of the New 52 garbage, like right now DC's continuity is about halfway between New 52 and what it was before. It's sort of they can change continuity with all these big cosmic time reality altering bullshit, whatever. And they sort of back in Rebirth, they sort of hinted that the entity behind fucking up the universe and turning into New 52 was Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. That, in other words, that he had, I guess, just left his own universe in the multiverse and gone and just fucked with the DC universe for some reason. And Doomsday Clock is supposed to be all that coming to a head. It's primarily supposed to focus, I guess, on Superman and Dr. Manhattan button heads. But I got to say, I really liked the Rebirth one shot. I liked the Button storyline back in Flash and Batman. Went through both those books. The Button being that little smiley face button with the little blood splot on it. That's just synonymous with the Watchmen series. At the end of Rebirth, Batman found that in the Batcave. And then, the Flash and Batman story is Batman tests it and it's got all this extra dimensional energy around it and shit like that. It was a good read. And people forget that, Barry Allen is a detective. That's often forgotten about the Flash. He's a forensic scientist.
We get no hints of what he is in the TV series.
Well, no, the TV series is pretty good at showing.
Oh no, I mean the cartoon TV series. Like the first time I've ever been exposed to Flash in a medium was in the cartoon, and we never get his backstory ever.
Oh, back in the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah.
That's because that wasn't Barry Allen. That was Wally West.
Oh.
Because Barry Allen died back in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Kid Flash, Wally West, became the new Flash, and he was the Flash for a long time in the comics. They didn't bring Barry Allen back until, I think 2007, 2008, something like that. It was the late 2000s.
What was Wally West's backstory?
Well, Wally West's backstory was he was Barry Allen's nephew. Yeah, it was nephew. It wasn't brother-in-law. I don't think it was nephew. It's brother-in-law in the show, but it was a nephew, I believe it was. And he just became Kid Flash. Somehow he had gotten Flash powers back in the Silver Age. But yeah, Wally West was a very different person than Barry Allen. But he was the Flash for a long time in the comics. And when the Justice League cartoon came out, they just went with that version. In fact, that version had actually appeared in the Superman cartoon beforehand. But yeah, odds are if you're digging through back issue bins and you're pulling out some Flash comics, odds are you're pulling out Wally West ones. That's why he's like such a goofball Joker in the Justice League cartoon. He's really not like Barry Allen's really not like that. He's very lighthearted, but he's not really, the comic relief of the group or anything like that. But yeah, I am actually excited for a comic book for once. Like holy shit, I'm looking forward to going and getting this and reading it. Not just like, oh, it's nice, here's some new comics. Actually, like, fuck yeah. I think the last time I felt this way was when Archie did that first Sonic Mega Man crossover comic. That was a lot of fun. I don't know where you got that, but that's funny. There's a really good episode of Justice League, and again, it's Wally, not Barry, but it sort of shows you that like the only real ceiling on the Flash's powers practically are his own kind of desire to not get lost in them, as it were. Like the Flash is
kind of like Ant-Man with his ability to shrink to microscopic level.
Yeah, it's a kind of like in the Ant-Man movie, how if he shrunk too small, he'd get lost in between, atoms and stuff like that. Well, the Flash's powers that his speed is powered by some extra dimensional energy called the Speed Force, and I mean it's almost like this living layer of reality. It's kind of, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's sort of similar to those entities that lived in the wormhole back in DS9, where it's like these not a god, but almost lowercase g god, as it were, and the more he taps into that, obviously the more power he gains, but the easier it is for him to just get kind of lost in it and almost absorbed into it. And you sort of saw that one episode of Justice League where he I guess Brainiac had possessed or like merged with Lex Luthor or something, and Flash just goes faster than he's ever been to just beat the shit out of him. And afterwards he starts to like literally fade into the Speed Force, and they had to like actually yank him out. And like he didn't quite want to come out. He's like, it's so beautiful and peaceful in here. Let's see. So he says, will Spencer be the new Charlie Manson? No, I don't think so. I don't think Spencer's going to do anything like that.
Well, the only difference is, even if he does, he'll never go to jail for it.
Yeah, everyone around him will.
It'll be the opposite of what Charles Manson did, basically.
Yeah, kind of will. Charles Manson didn't technically do it. He just, got other people to do it, and he paid the biggest price. In some ways, in that regard, Spencer is the anti-Manson.
Well, that's a meme right there. That's a meme.
Let's see. Going through the chat a little bit there. Yeah, that's the episode where he literally runs around the world like just to strike him several times. When you look back at some of the like the 60s era Justice League, the Silver Age era Justice League guys, because there's been a lot of people that have been Green Lantern, there's been a lot of people that have been Flash and all, but you look back and it's kind of telling again that sort of aspirational fiction element where it's like these are men, you know what I mean? Like Barry Allen's an accomplished forensic scientist, you know what I mean? Hal Jordan is a ex, I think, Air Force or Navy pilot. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think Air Force. But then he had a job as a test pilot for experimental jets and shit like that. Like these actually were men, And then you look at the Justice League show, and there's Barry Allen living in a basement or something. The Justice League movie, I mean.
Even to take off comic books, even Mario was a adult with a plumber as a plumbing job.
Yeah, that's.
It's like all the characters are trying to be jobless adolescents who just have free time to. Even Spider-Man actually had a job as a photographer.
Yeah, you have to remember, Spider-Man started as a high school student, but then by the time I was reading comics, Spider-Man was an adult with an actual history behind him and God forbid a wife.
Everyone's trying to have the Cloud backstory where they're just a kid born in oppression and they just rebel against the system.
Yeah, I think part of it is that we got a generation of creators who don't know how to write an adult because they're not really adults themselves. You saw the beginning of that with One More Day. I often argue that's where the rot really sat in, really took root to Marvel. I don't think Marvel, quote unquote, died as readable comics until 2012. But even back then, that's when it really sat in. Because Joe Quesada was always defending it like our fans can't relate to being in a stable relationship with a beautiful woman. I'm like, at everything he said. And yeah, there's the basement dwelling nerd that's true of, but it always felt like it was true of him. You know what I mean? It always felt like he was just projecting. and even relatability is a little overrated. What was it? Sunday night, Saturday night, we were talking about Miss Marvel. And I liked the fact that she was kind of a fuck up, But first of all, that's one character. I don't want every character to be that way. But it was in kind of it's a very endearing way. You know what I mean? But there's also some characters should be aspirational, Some characters you should be looking at them having their shit together and say, oh, look at that. I should get my shit together.
Otherwise, it reinforces the idea that their only depth is when they're pretending to be the hero, or they're going out being a superhero.
Yeah. Well, here's another aspect of the superhero genre. So much of it's based off this idea of, you're given these powers by something completely out of your control. You know what I mean? the magic ring chooses you to be a Green Lantern. You know, the Speed Force chooses you to become the Flash. You know, some freak accident gives you these abilities. So some, you know, higher power or pure dumb luck gives you these abilities. You know, you've won the lottery, essentially. Well, if you're not dealing with characters that are already actual accomplished men, you know what I mean? Actual adults with some sort of moral core, then they're going to take that windfall and squander it. And in some ways, you see that with the Spider-Man origin. You know, he takes that windfall and he acts like a self-absorbed dickhead until that blows up in his face and he loses his father figure as a result. So, you know, when you got somebody that's just a spoiled, immature, self-absorbed cunt, and they get this windfall, as it were, and then everything just is all wonderful, that's kind of a terrible message to show. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Hey, you take the Muslim Miss Marvel, right? She's this spoiled, self-absorbed. She's basically what that Linda chick, that quote unquote liberal Muslim chick. That, you know what I mean? That, what's her name?
What's her name?
Whatever.
Linda South Shore.
Yeah, Durka, whatever her name is. Doesn't matter. She doesn't matter. It's not worth knowing her name. But she's basically that bitch, this spoiled liberal Muslim that understands the world better than everybody else. She's in issue 1 of the Durka Miss Marvel series. She is an immature piece of shit, right? And then she gets powers, and everything goes rosy because she's so super special. She knows exactly what to do with them.
So no character development.
Yeah. Whereas instead of it being somebody that already has responsibility and moral fortitude in them, and then they're given this windfall and they know what they must do with it and they go with it, or as often you see somebody who is an immature jackass gets a windfall, acts like an immature jackass, and has to learn the hard way to not do that. You don't have any of that in some of these SJW characters. You don't have any of that. Like, I saw this article once, it was somewhere in the Manosphere, and it was talking about these tropes, and, you know, it was saying, like, there is no magic ring, was the name of the article, and I don't remember who wrote it. And his point was basically, and it was a good point, that you shouldn't be waiting for your ship to come in, as it were, you know? Don't be counting on winning the lottery or a rich uncle that you never heard of dying and you get $1 million, you know, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, go out there and make your and there's something to that, but what I always thought was missing in that article was there are magic rings, as it were, quote unquote, though in the sense he was using it. People do win the lottery, you know. Mm-hmm. I realize, you know, when you buy a Powerball ticket, it's very, very unlikely you're going to win, obviously, but somebody wins. You know, you see it on the news. That's a human being who got that money. You know what I mean? That is a real person. Sometimes you do get the windfall. You know, sometimes the rich uncle you didn't know you had did die and left you a buttload of money. You know what I mean? And to some extent, we all have a little bit of the magic ring. All right. First of all, we all live in, you know, most of my audience at least lives in, I guess, the first world, I would assume. You know, you live in times of prosperity and freedom greater than, you know, what 99.9% of your ancestors could have dreamed of. You know, so you have an inheritance right there. And, you know, you've probably, maybe your grandfather left you a few bucks. So that's fucking hilarious. You know, maybe your grandfather left you a few bucks here or something like that. You know what I mean? We all have a great deal of blessings. You know, we all have, we've all gotten windfalls to some extent or another. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you could, it's perfectly valid to argue there is no magic ring. But also, at times you need to say, well, sometimes there is a magic ring, and if you get it, here's what you do with it. Don't squander it.
Or to give it a farmer analogy, sometimes you have a good harvest, you have an awesome harvest, but don't eat it up as if it's going to come back the next year.
Yeah. In other words, what the baby boomers did. Let's see what we got in the chat here. Somebody says well-written characters are relatable no matter how different their circumstances are from the audience. Well, that's an interesting point. One of the arguments against Spider-Man's often called the everyman hero, and that has been used over the years as an excuse for writers to just constantly drag this poor character through the dirt, to make his life just a shithole. You know what I mean? He's got to suffer because that's the everyman appeal, right? But the thing about it is, Spider-Man's everyman appeal doesn't come from the circumstances he's in. It comes from how he reacts to those circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
So, there were a lot of writers that hated the idea that Spider-Man, he couldn't be an Avenger, or he couldn't be married, for example. His life's just got to suck. He can't be well off ever. And again, that's not necessarily where his everyman appeal comes from, A story that actually showed Spider-Man's everyman appeal better than most was this story called Marvel Zombies, where it was like a parallel universe where all the heroes had been taken over by this sort of a Return of the Living Dead zombie virus, where it's like zombie, but they still retain their intelligence and personality. It's just corrupted by the hunger.
Oh, so did they go berserk?
Yeah, they just go killing and eating everybody, almost all the super beings on the world, and they basically wiped out all life on that world. And when there's a moment where after Spider-Man eats like this last remaining person along with the other, super zombies, right after the hunger's situated, he comes to his, the urge is gone, so he's all feeling guilty and stuff. And it's weird. Throughout that story, his everyman appeal actually shines through, and you basically can't get a more ridiculous situation. So, like I said, it's not a question of the circumstances he finds himself in. It's how he handles them. Because otherwise, he shouldn't be fucking Spider-Man. I don't put on tights and go beat up guys with robot arms coming out their back. Nobody does that.
It actually reminds me of the lyrics from Kim Possible intro. There's an opening that goes, "I'm a basic average girl. I'm here to save the world." I'm thinking to myself, well, if you're basic and average, odds are you're not going to do awesome things like saving the world.
That was such a good cartoon. It really was. I remember watching it when it came out, and I was looking at it the one time, and I was like, this looks just like the Clerks cartoon. And sure enough, I look at the credits, and I pulled out my Clerks cartoon DVD, and I was looking at all the big names behind it, and I guess it had one of the same art directors or something.
Yep.
Because it looks like it could be happening in the same universe as the Clerks cartoon.
Steven Silver, that's his name.
Yeah, it is a great show. That's probably the best thing I think Disney Channel ever had. Not that that's the highest of bars, but
of course now it's being over examined as an anti-male story because the girl's awesome and the guy's kind of an idiot.
I don't know about that. I never kind of saw it that way.
I'm like, oh, this is a good picture he made. Yeah, they all have that same style, but yeah, but it's just because what the interesting thing about these characters is that we follow them not because they're exactly like us, because we like them because they have an interesting story and they're responding accordingly, like you're saying. They're responding like a human being would respond.
Yeah. Yeah, this relatability thing. I don't know. I don't know if it maybe comes from some a bit of the narcissism of the age. Everything's got to reflect me, But I've never felt that way. Some of my favorite characters are pretty damn far removed from me. Or if I do see something of myself, maybe it's this tiny, tiny little piece of myself I see it. You know what I mean?
I like the supervillains. I'm nothing like them.
Let's see. Somebody says thoughts on Marvel firing Alonzo and SJW Mario because yeah, I talked about this yesterday. It seems like it's a good thing. It seems like the guy's a step up. I certainly hope, Marvel's going to pull its head out of its ass. I don't know. That would certainly be my hope. But who knows? Let's see. What else? What the hell else been going on this week? I know there was some other stories I wanted to talk about. Shit, I don't know. Can't think of them. It was the Manson thing. I know there was another story I wanted to cover. No, maybe I'll go over on Gab, see if I talked about it there or something. Actually, I thought I was going to have to work Thanksgiving, but it lucked out. I'm part-time, so I probably would have gotten screwed with just straight pay for it, too. But I lucked out. I'm going to work tomorrow because I want to make up for that day. But I told the guy point by, I talked to my coordinator today, and I'm all like, am I supposed to come in Thursday? And he's like, I think we have enough people, but he's like, it is your scheduled day. What's your preference? I'm like, well, I'd rather not, but I don't really mind it. It's not a big deal. Thanksgiving's not that big of a deal to me. But I also told him, I'm like, I don't know if you're going to be open Christmas Eve. If you're going to have anybody in here, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not coming in. I mean, I'll work with you. I'll do whatever needs to,
Oh yeah,
I'll make up days or something. But trust me.
Oh,
I'm not going to be here Christmas and Christmas Eve.
Oh, you know how Charlie Rose has been accused of sexual impropriety?
I did want to talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, I just saw this article. CBS this morning is begging Oprah to fill in for Charlie Rose.
It's funny, man. It just eating each other.
It's always the people who are feminists, oddly enough.
And I'm sure half of these allegations are probably bullshit. I mean, at least a fourth of all these total allegations got to be bullshit.
Yeah, I like what Razor has always said about the victim mentality. Like, one of the best ways to prove that your dedication to the ideology is to attack a heretic on your side.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know, man. It just I keep feeling like I should have a lot to say about all this stuff and all, but at the same time, it's like, what do you. It's the Charlie Rose story is the same as the Kevin Spacey story, and it's the same as the Louis C.K. story. It's the exact same. I don't know. Like I said, it's just when I would watch zombie movies back in the day, I would wonder what keeps the zombies from eating each other, and in real life, it turns out nothing.
I just thought they didn't eat each other because they don't have good brains.
I don't know. Probably out of stuff to talk about, as it were. Wonder how long I've been going on. Yeah, maybe close to an hour. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, we've been going on for about 50 minutes. I'll probably wrap it up. So it says David Cassidy died. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Partridge Family, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I know of him. I don't have any real opinion.
Totally past our generation. That was before our time.
Yeah. I mean, I watched, like, there's a lot of 70s shows I watched reruns of as a kid. I never gave a damn about the Partridge Family. Somebody says the what cartoon? Clerks cartoon? Yeah, there was a Clerks cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
The mighty 6 episodes of the Clerks cartoon, 2 of which aired. They only aired 2 out of the 6, and they aired it out of order. I don't know. Somebody at ABC wanted it to die. But it's probably the best thing Kevin Smith ever did. The Clerks cartoon is hilarious. The Clerks cartoon's first DVD I ever owned. It made me, because it wasn't available on tape. It was the first thing where I was like, I gotta see this, because I was a big Kevin Smith fan at the time, and I was like, I think it was like over the summer I got it one year, and then I was like, I got it, and then I'm like, I'm gonna save up for a DVD player. But in the meantime, I just went over to my friend's house and watched it on his PS2.
Oh, great! Now, there are whispers about John Lasseter being accused.
Of who?
John Lasseter, the president, the CEO head of the Pixar. Jeez. It says, for more than 20 years, young women at Pixar Animation Studios have been warned about the behavior of John Lasseter, who just disclosed that he is taking a leave due to inappropriate conduct with women.
See, that's the thing. Like, a lot of this isn't harassment. It's just, office grab ass. It's just, he you know how it is. You know how it is in a work environment, especially with creative types.
Yeah, but among female employees, there have long been widespread discomfort about Lasseter's hugs and about the other ways he shows attention to young women. On Tuesday, the history he caught up with him as Lasseter became the latest prominent person to be accused of inappropriate behavior.
When you're dealing with artists, when you're dealing with creative types, you're like, getting back to Kevin Smith. I remember one of the DVD extras or something. They were talking about Jason Mewes, the guy that plays Jay in Jay and Silent Bob.
Mm-hmm.
It was all like this guy. Smith is talking about him, saying that guy is like so shy when you first meet him, and then if you know him for 2 days, he'll whip his dick out in front of you, right? And it's like, I'm sure that's exactly how he is. You know what I mean? And that's how there's just going to be that kind of eclectic, weird shit about stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what to say. A lot of this, as much as I'm happy to see leftist Hollywood eating itself, I on one level, this isn't good. Like, we can all sit here, and it's happening mostly to shit libs that we hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a rot that, I don't know. It's like watching all your enemies die of a plague. On the one hand, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But on the other hand, holy shit, there's a plague. You know what I mean?
And you're watching him from a distance, like, man, they're kind of suffering out there. Do you think we should help them?
Well, on the one hand, you're like, wow, look at them all rotting away from that plague. On the other hand, you're like, boy, I sure hope the wind doesn't shift. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't good. This like, let's say you got the fucking communist shit lib SJW horse shit out of there, okay? Creativity can't function in this kind of, I felt uncomfortable. He patted me on the butt one time and said, good hustle out there. You know what I mean? Like, it can't function with that. He invited me up to, and I'm so sick. I'm so sick of the victim mentality from these fuckers. Fuck you. You victim mentality. I don't want to hear it. It's like, I'm a victim. Well, how are you a victim, sweetie? Well, this slimy fat Jew said he'd make me a star if I sucked his dick. Okay, well, what'd you do? Well, I sucked his dick. All right, and did he make you a star? Well, yeah. Well, okay then, what's the problem? But I feel victimized. No, sweetie. What you feel is guilt. Now I realize that's you narcissistic shit live Hollywood types. You don't understand that, but what you feel is guilt because you're not supposed to be a whore. All right, it's not victim. All right, what you feel is guilt because you shouldn't have sold your soul, but you did, and you know what? You got what you fucking paid for.
That always reminds me of the kind of joke where the kind of hypothetical story where a guy says he'll give a woman $1 million to sleep with him, but when they land, he says, "Look, I don't have $1 million, but how do you feel sleeping with me for $10?" Says, "What kind of woman do you take me for?" He says, "Woman, we've already established what you are. We're just haggling over the price."
I heard, no lie, Ravi Zacharias, this one Christian apologetics guy I listen to a lot.
Yeah, that's what
he
I heard.
Actually told that story. That's so funny to hear it. But yeah, the joke, he goes through like this guy approaches a woman and said, "Would you sleep with me for $1 million?" And she thinks about it and decides, yeah. And he goes, "Well, how about $5? What kind of woman do you think I am?" "Oh, sweetie, we've established what kind of woman you are. Now we're just negotiating price." And hey, I'm not necessarily throwing stones, all right? That's the thing. We all, at the end of the day, we all have our price. There is a certain level of temptation under which every one of us would buckle. Somebody says, "Hey, I'll make you a rich and famous and adored billionaire if you watch me masturbate into a potted plant." That's a tempting offer.
Or take it to another biblical route. The devil went to Jesus and says, "I will give you everything if you just bow down to me."
Yeah.
And Jesus says, "No, it's not worth it because you have to live by what God says, not by what the whole world, by having the whole world."
So yeah, if you watched Harvey Weinstein masturbate, and then he made you a star, well, I mean, it's good that you feel bad about that. You're supposed to feel bad about that. But at the same time, you're not a victim, not of anyone really but yourself. You made a deal, and he kept up his end of it.
It's not like a trick where they take your soul, like it takes your soul to hell. I mean, you want something, you got something.
Yeah. It's not like some monkey's paw thing where it turned out to not be the thing you want. No, it was exactly what you wanted. It wasn't worth what you did, but that's your problem. But like I said, creativity can't function in this kind of, this hyper. I don't know how else to put it.
Walking on eggshells culture. Walking on eggshells.
Yeah, this left-wing Puritanism. I don't know what else to put it.
Oh, and liberal Puritanism. It's even more horrifying because there's no basis for it either.
That Pixar cartoon with the Mexican Day of the Dead thing actually looks pretty good.
But I actually saw some bits about it, and it's actually not. It's not. There's no. I mean, I'm sure people. I've already made the. I kind of made the assumption that it's going to be somehow analogous to Immigration, but it turns out it's actually just completely about the Day of the Dead story with this little twist. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I have nothing inherently against Mexican culture. I just don't necessarily want it, down the street from me. I'm very, I'm very happy with Mexican culture in Mexico. The art style on those skeletons reminds me a bit of the Beetlejuice cartoon.
Oh yeah.
What a weird thing to be on Saturday morning.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Like, just objectively step back and think about the Beetlejuice cartoons. Like, okay, so we took this really weird, kind of fucking scary for little kids at least, R-rated comedy, right? And then we took the character that was, and then took the girl that he was kind of rapey with, and we decided to make them sort of boyfriend and girlfriend in a kids cartoon. It's for the kids.
Yeah, the very first episode is him buying their first year anniversary of knowing each other.
That's interesting. But yeah, and then it turns out to be this amazing cartoon. And it is every bit as good of a kid's cartoon is that movie is a good movie. You know what I mean? Now it's apples and oranges. It's two very different things, obviously. You know, an R-rated comedy and a Saturday morning cartoon are obviously apples and oranges, but it's just tremendously good. And the movie's great too. I mean, if you haven't seen Beetlejuice, you're wrong. Okay, what you need to do is you need to go watch Beetlejuice. And I know a lot of you are kind of young, listen to me, and it may be before your time or something, but just like go watch Beetlejuice. It's quite the interesting little bit of storytelling, that's for sure.
And Michael Keaton is so fun as Beetlejuice too.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic in that movie. What
When
an
first,
actor
first time we meet him, he goes up to the husband and says, "Hey, you got a fine woman. Let me ask you something. Is this relationship really solid, or do I have a shot at her at all?"
What a solid. I mean, just in the course of a couple of years, you know, he had hits like Mr. Mom, Batman, and Beetlejuice. I mean, you talk about a range, you know, for an actor.
And of course, the Tim Burton art style, like, it can give you the creeps with wonderment.
Oh, when I was a kid, there's parts of that movie scared the fuck out of me. That snake thing, that was scary as shit when you're a little kid. I'm borderline creeped out by it now, and I'm a grown ass man.
That's because it looks so real, because it's actual claymation practical effects.
Yeah, and it being the claymation gave it just a bit of an uncanny movement, which made it just even creepier. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great movie.
If they made that today, they'll CGI it and have these awesome scenes where he's zooming by up close on this and wrapping around everything. Like, ugh, good grief.
It really is just a solid flick. Handbook for the recently. I saw somebody had photoshopped Charles Manson reading the handbooks for the recently deceased. Beetlejuice.
Yeah, technically, yeah, if that's true, he's technically not in. There is technically no hell in the Beetlejuice universe. There's just there's death for the dead, where you just become a lost soul in a dark room somewhere.
Oh man, I forgot how good that Beetlejuice cartoon was.
And all the great visual gags, like he says, "I don't have any money. You know what I am, kids? I'm flat broke." He turns into a flat disc and showers on the floor. Or the best one, he says, "I could be anything. I could be a foot doctor, a fireman, or become a garbage man." He turns into a giant pile of garbage. And like, is that rubbish you say? Okay, I'll become a big game hunter. Two giant chess pieces walk by. Hey, there goes some big cane now.
Just a certain level of creativity in that you don't see in a lot of kids' cartoons these days. Let's see. Well, I'm probably gonna wrap this up. Let me check the chat real quick, see if there's anything going on in chat. And nothing really going on in chat. Yeah, I'll probably just wrap this up. So Friday there'll be a stream. I guess Black Friday, no less. Hopefully by then we'll have a new VidMe Vida.
Oh yes, we will.
Sort of Christmas related. So if you enjoy the show, do check out our sponsors. We got Aaron Clary's books, and we got Irreverent Apparel. Really, couple of really cool shirts already on Irreverent Apparel, and they just went up. Like the site just basically went up. Sure, you know what? So they got you, Luke. Let's make sure this guy gets his money worth. Show him the anti-Pope. Sure. Just fantastic.
Let's see, Pope.
I know. Oh yeah, there's that one. But yeah, show him the Martin Luther one. That one.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Let me just get it right here. There we go.
Yeah, Martin Luther is that one. I want that shirt. I don't have the money for a new shirt right now, but that's just fantastic.
I love the slightly adjusted memes for the modern age.
Shit posting circa 500. Or I'm sorry, circa 500. 500 years ago, I mean. It's late, forgive me. It's almost 2 here on the East Coast. But yeah, check out our sponsors, Irreverent Apparel, Aaron Clary's books. And if you enjoy the show, enjoy the regular content I produce, I'd appreciate it if you became a patron. Or just send me 1 or 2 shekels on the old PayPal, if you don't want to do a monthly thing. All right, so that's about all we got for tonight, folks. Oh, and also, if you would be so kind, folks, make sure you do the old like, comment, subscribe. That's a big help too. All right, folks, so that's all we got for tonight. Thanks for listening. Bechtloff out.